Dharmasya Sarvadharmasvarupine Avataravariष्ठाय Ramakrishnaya Te Namaha Jananim Sharadam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Sritva Pranamami Muhurmuhu Namastri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Surye Satchit Sukasvarupaya Swamine Tapaharini Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahe Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahe Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om. So he has virtually told Nachiketa about the knowledge of the Brahman. So that part is practically is done. Now in the next chapter, largely he will tell about why we are not able to realize this. क्यों हम लोग नहीं कर पा रहे हैं, इसकी बाधाएं क्या क्या है. Largely it will be, discussions will be on those things. Of course, again, finally we will also talk about the supreme nature of the self. Again will come, but at least the next Varli.
One question on the last, the 17th one. I don't know, I have not read all the Upanishads, but talking about Shraddha ceremony in this Gyan Kand, I mean, this first time I have come across such thing.
Nah, you see, any time, see, the Shraddha is considered a very sacred duty of Brahmanas, no, actually. So, Shraddha Kale, so actually it is for the welfare of those who died.
Yes.
So, probably, that feeling at that time, if you do it with great Shraddha, they are supposed to come and even accept in a subtle form the offerings and all that. So, the ambience is, right for talking about death and beyond death, etc. No? Shraddha is right for the people who have died already.
Yeah.
So, the idea is, wherever possible, Shraddha is considered a very great occasion. See, he is not saying that do it during marriages. शादी के समय आप नृत्य की बात करें तो कैसे लगेगा, इसलिए बोल रहे हैं ठीक है श्राद्ध के समय करो. After all, it is for the dead. Huh?
My question is from the angle of this Karm Kand and Gyan.
No, he is not saying about doing Shraddha or anything. Just it is a eulogy, फलश्रुति है. ऐसे करो, जय भी जिस समय भी करो इसका अध्ययन करते रहो in all parts. Now, more importantly, that last sloka which we saw, आप 3:12 पे देखें that we discussed in detail. येषु सर्वेषु भूतेषु गूढ़ात्मा न प्रकाशते दृश्यते तज्ञया बुद्धिया सूक्ष्मया सूक्ष्मदर्शिभिः. What is this nature of this Sukshma Darshana? That is one small clarification. Normally, all what we really mean as darshan or seeing is actually pratyaksha, straight in front, right? Then only it is called, darshan or having seen and all that. So this the idea of pratyaksha is very, very important there. But the Atma, that darshan, that is not pratyaksha, because it is nothing apart from. So at the same time, it is also not apratyaksha, it is not seen or anything like that. That's why they use the word aparoksha. It is not paroksha, it is not apart, it is kind of inbuilt. See, you realize or see as non-different. Aparoksha anubhuti. So that is one about this darshana, it is aparoksha. Then it's a very next chapter start with a very beautiful sloka. Paranchikani vatrinat swayambhuhu. That is चौथा चैप्टर में पहला श्लोक होगा. परांचिकानि वत्न स्वयंभुः तस्मात् परांग पश्यति नान्तरात्मा. Kaschid dhiraha pratyagatmanamaikshat avrita chakshuhu amritatvam ichan. So the idea is the indriyas or the sense organs, khani, they are created in such a way. Paranchi Vetinat, they have been made always outgoing, outgoing, outgoing. Vetinat Swayambhu, by the Supreme Lord. He has been created by the Swayambhu in that way that they always, the Supreme Lord has this, uh, created all the sense organs as outgoing. आप देखिए, आप तो जितने दूर हैं आँख देखने के प्रयास करता है ना, तस्मात् परांग पश्यति नान्तरात्मा, अंदर की तरह कभी दृष्टि नहीं पड़ा, सीज इनसाइड. आप eyes, how far it always tries to, but never tries to see inside. Similarly, the ears, even at 100 feet distance, somebody, two people are talking, we think that they are talking about ourselves, trying to hear. But never listens to the antaratma or the conscience, that voice is constantly advising you. Similarly, gandha, oh, I can't tolerate smell, but you're just carrying so much that we never realize. So it's always outgoing, outgoing, outgoing. They are created by its very nature. So I know why. Because of that, this Atman or the self, he clearly said, is good. It's within, it's all deep within. So, first of all, the Atma is there. And then, the Antakaranas are there. Then Indriyas are there. So, even in the Indriyas itself, you start driving them outside. Antakarana also following them, they go outside. Then how will you see that which is deep within? Very logically, सब तो बाहर ही देख रहा है, so अंदर कैसे देखेगा? So that is why, but is it for everybody? Normally there is the case. But kaschid dhiraha, very special, those dhira व्यक्ति, जिन्होंने ये सब समझ लिया, like Nachiketa, they want to realize this. They know the nature of the life. It's full of dukkha, suffering, etc. They want to get over all that. They want to janma mrityu जो पार करना चाहते हैं, जन्म मरण जो पार करना है, want to get over this fear of birth and death, and also all those things. What they do, pratyekatmanam, they see the indwelling pratyekatman or the supreme self, the highest self. How? Avrita chakshu, by turning their gaze inwards. Why? Amritattva, which they want immortality. So it's a very, very beautiful verse. So, constantly all our effort is outgoing, outgoing, outgoing. Even every person, even irrespective of age, their engagement, everything, always outside, outside, outside. Never turning their gaze inwards. So that is in their very nature, the outgoing tendency always. So naturally, how it is possible? You have to turn their gaze inwards. They generally use a very nice example. The antakarana is like a lake. So in that, the indriyas, they keep on throwing stones by way of vishayas constantly. आँख कुछ पत्थर फेंकते हैं, कान कुछ फेंकते हैं, फेंकते then the water is, the mind is always chanchal, it's always restless, and with such a restless mind, the Atma is never revealed, because Atma is Shuddha Maner Gochar, as Thakur says, Shuddha Man, Shuddha Atma. So only when the mind is absolutely calm, like a rippleless lake, then the Atma is revealed. Otherwise, but so there's constantly this outgoing tendency. There is no limit to this type of functioning of the mind. So always it's external oriented. So how to see that which is deep within? So they say that unless those tendencies are stopped, as our Siraj was also asking today, Is it possible? Can someone completely, destroy all the indriyas? Is it possible? No, it will also not work. Because see that the vasanas, the main things are the vasanas, desires. So does it mean that the person who is blind has no vasana to see? Is plenty, but is unable to fulfill it. So unless there is this, the turning the gaze inward means normally the senses why they go outwards. They're constantly attracted by the sense objects. हर एक इंद्रिय का ना अपना अपना जमींदारी कुछ है. Their own spheres of activity, domain is there. So they are constantly going in that direction, going in that direction. So the only way to quieten the mind is to give up, turn away from them, so that they do not really come and disturb you. They do not disturb you. They do not disturb. But then it cannot be. It is not just by any physical activity or by tying your eyes or putting cotton to your ears. No, not that way. Those things will not stop them. They'll be much more active. The inner quietude, that is possible when there is a deep desire to know the highest. See, everybody, we are all only with uddesha, only everybody functions. When there is a deep desire to that which is deep within, then one of the methods is how to stay away from all that. That is why by constant practice, how to go again, the mind will go. Then we have to use your vichara, your viveka, your vairagya, your practice, so that the mind is weaned away from all that slowly. Again, what is the nature? I am eating every day, I am doing, no point. Again, you do any number of times, it only brings sorrow and suffering. Better. So, when the mind fully understands, when the indriyas kind of lose their attraction for the sense objects, then only they will kind of turn inside. Supposing आपकी बहुत ही खाने की इच्छा है, आप जबरदस्ती है नहीं वही नहीं खाऊंगा कुछ. So the root of all that, the vasanas, that should go to some extent. Then only the indriyas will turn inward. Because there is nothing in this outside world. इसमें क्या है? कितना तो देख लिया. I ask people, what have we done in our life? Maybe 1,000 kgs of potato have eaten, maybe 500 kgs of brinjal, or 100 kgs of ghee. What is our life story? Day after day, same thing, na? Morning breakfast, lunch, dinner, breakfast, lunch, dinner, breakfast, lunch, dinner. The accumulation may be 1 quintal aloo, 2 quintal ghee, like that. So, if you understand, this is the nature of the life, ho chuka hai, no need. Is there anything better, anything beyond, anything important, anything that is permanent? When the mind starts asking like that, when the indriyas, attraction for them are, the bandhans are loosened kind of. Is it not? Supposing, sometimes, when even if the items are far away from us, still the mind, they run after them. Maybe abhi nazdik nahi hai, but still the memory is so powerful, the samskara is so powerful, that which is far away also the mind wants to grab. But sometimes, if you have realized it, then even if it is near also, you don't even look at them. छोड़ो जरूरत नहीं. Why? वैराग्य, विरक्ति आ गया, वैराग्य आ गया, नहीं तो जरूरत नहीं. So unless the mind learns to go away from all these attractions, unless it is tired of all that, बहुत हो चुका है, then it cannot. Once it starts turning inside, then slowly it is possible that it can be turned toward that, and it is possible. Ultimately, it is this pratyagatmanam akshat. They see how this, again, aparoksha anubhuti only. What happens? The ajnana dur ho jata hai. It's really what happens at the realization, the highest level. Nothing is seen, there is no light and nothing like that. The real thing is the ajnana regarding self. is completely removed. Because now what is our this thing? Self, we think that this is the body, this is the mind, the indriyas, the attractions, the enjoyments, all these things that is our we, that is self. But at the real self is, no, they're all away from all that. It has nothing to do with all that. It has no birth, no death. It is of a nature of eternal, immortal, undying. It is of the Satchit Ananda Swarup. So, when all the ajnana about the self is removed, then only finally that Avrita Chakshu, Amritatta Michvan, why? They want immortality. That is, they don't want to participate in this world of activities, is coming and going, agama paino nityam. Always eternal coming and going. So they want to get rid of that. That is why it is. So, I mean, there are so many slokas, they all talk about the same thing. He says, again, the fourth sloka, Swapnantam Jagaridantam cha ubhav ena anupashyati mahantam vibhum atmanam matva dhiro na sochati. So, whether swapna mein ba jagrat avastha, whether sleeping or in waking state, they are all the experiences possible because of this great Atman. It's all because of that. It's all pervasive. Mahantam, see, is there all, Ubhav in this, Yena Anupashyati, by the power of this. A person is able to see something in the Swapna or in the Jagrata Avastha. It's all because of that Supreme Atman. And in a step by step, Atman to Buddhi, Buddhi to Man, Man to Indriyas, Indriya to objects. In that cycle, but ultimately, the reason is the Atman, the Supreme Self, Yanupashyati. Mahantam Vibhum Atman is omnipresent, ever present. It is never outside. Matva, the oneness with self, Dhiraha, does not grieve. That is, an enlightened soul realizes oneness with grades and is no longer subject to grief. See, again and again, in various ways, the dukkha nivritti is constantly advocated in this Upanishad and in most of the Upanishads also. Why? Because that is the most powerful thing human beings understand. No one wants to suffer. Suffering is something detested by him. No one wants to suffer. Everyone wants to be free from suffering. So he says dukkha nivritti is guaranteed. When a person sees whether what is happening in the waking state or sleeping state, they are all because of this only. Waking, sleeping, even in the dreamless state, everywhere, the mind actually, in various ways they function. In the waking state, directly all the indriyas are fully functional. And in the dream state, the indriyas are silent, but the mind is active. Mind is all the functions of the indriyas also, the mind takes over. So then in the deep sleep state, even in the mind is absent, but something is going on there also. Because when you get up, you always say, we had a wonderful sleep, we were so happy. So even in that complete blank state or deep sleep, where there is no dream, still the presence of that Atman is felt there. So all our activities are, whether in the waking or all the conditions, it is all because of the Atma only. So, the self is the witness of all these experiences. So, once they say, they know that once the dhiraha, once they understand, it is the self that is doing all that, then, they are able to kind of separate themselves from all actions, so to say. Whatever happens, see, in the waking state, even in the dream also, there are many pleasant experiences and many unpleasant experiences. Many dukkha-dayak bhi bahut sari hota hai. So normally because of our identification with the body and mind, we participate. So even in Swapna also we suffer terribly. The moment you get up, there are people with terrible palpitations, sweating and all that because they had a very bad dream and all that. So, but once a person knows that he is that self, it's self alone is doing all that, then that knowledge gives him that comfort. Whatever happens is nothing to worry, nothing to fear. It has got nothing to do with all that. So he is always free from any fear, does not feel any sorrowful experience or dukkha at all. Because he says it's all relating to the body, etc. But ultimately it is the self who is responsible for all that. So I as an individual, I as a Jivatma, I have nothing to do with all that. I am not responsible in that sense because ultimately it is the self which is making me do all that. Swapnantam, that is what it's saying. Then, next sloka in 5 says, Ya imam madvadam veda atmanam jivamantikat Ishanam bhutabhavyasya na tato vijigupsate. So, the person who knows the individual self, in spite of its enjoying the fruits of its actions, to be the Lord of the Lord present and future. The Madhvam means actually, it's like enjoying the fruits of actions. In a literal translation, it is like drinking honey. Madhu pinika saman. Imam jivam atmanam bhuta bhavya ishanam. Lord of the past, present and future. Also, antikat, very close. So, he does not have anything. Vijigupse also means not to hate anything or not to concede. The person who knows the individual self, Veda, in spite of enjoying the fruits of its actions, to be the Lord of the past, present and future, close to him, that is the Lord, realizes his identity with the Supreme, has no reason to be afraid of anything. This is truly that. Etat vaitat, a number of times Yama uses this expression to show that don't forget all these are all ultimately that only. Etat vaitat, that supreme self, that is all that. See, again we are passing through so many things, but never lose track of that which is the supreme. This is that. All this is ultimately that only. So what happens, if a person knows his oneness with everything, then he becomes nirbhig. He is not afraid of anything. Because, there is no second thing. हम किसी से डरते हैं दूसरा कोई व्यक्ति होने में if there is a second person or second entity भय कहाँ से पैदा होता है where how his fear is originated or created by the presence of a second entity. But if you say there is only oneness, you are one with that self, so he knows so many things are happening, past, present and future, the results of actions, he is enjoying, everything is happening, but he is established in that idea that I am one with that self. Although he is enjoying the actions and all that, that knowledge is there, so he is not afraid of anything. He is completely freed from any fear because he says there is no one to be afraid of. He doesn't want to conceal, he is always ever free and functioning very beautifully without any restraint. Then see again the sloka 10. Yadeveha yadamutra tadanviha mrityosa mrityumapnoti ya iha naneva pashyati. Whatever is here is also there. Very much like that sloka Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamadachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyati. Only that infinite, that supreme, there is everywhere. Yadeha tadamutra yadamutra tadanmiha. Whatever is here is also there. Whatever is there is also here. Mrityoho sa mrityumapnoti yaiha naveva pashyati. The one who sees a difference, ये दोनों के अंदर जो पृथक देखते हैं, he travels from death to death. That means उसके पुनः पुनः जन्म लेना पड़ता है. So see, the world is not here, whatever you see, all pervading, everything is only Brahman. Similarly, what you think of the highest Brahman, that's also here. So there is nothing apart from Brahman. Whatever you see, whatever you don't see, whatever you imagine, whatever you meditate, whatever you experience, all are only Brahman. Either in there. World as an independent entity, that will be a fatal mistake. See, it is being said that world is not separate from Brahman. World is actually nothing but Brahman. Nothing can exist without. That is, like they say, like the warp and woof of everything. They are, is one expression they always use in this, in the Sanskrit is oath of prata. It's both, so mixed in such a way that it's difficult to distinguish. Here, inside, outside, everywhere it is. So, see, we see manifold. We see many things, It is not that we only see one blank hole, nothing else. We see. But then in and through all that, the reality is that supreme, that self, that is the idea. So, if you see the world as something totally different apart from man, that means don't thinking the world to be real. If you see the world as something apart from Brahman, or if you have the idea, no, world is something different, Brahman is something different, then their world becomes a reality. Then once world becomes reality, whatever associated with the world, then all its allurements, this and that, they all start creating you attachments, bondages. Bondages lead to, for their fulfillment, again and again you have to take birth. That is how one goes from birth to birth. Life then becomes like that, restricted. Then, so what all these lead to attachment? Attachment in a sense is literally death, because this attachment that brings to all that, see, dhyayato vishyan pamusa sangasteshu upajayate sanga sanjayate kama krodha vijayate. So that is that. The attachment is what is bringing all this. So the idea that there is nothing different, the same thing, only thing is, it's all appearing as so many. In reality, it's only the Supreme Self. That knowledge alone will give us that complete satisfaction. Then the next, the 11th sloka is also interesting. Manasai vedamaptabhyam neha nanasti kinchana mrityosa mrityung gacchati yeha naneva pashyati. So again and again in every sloka he is returning. You will go through again and again death if you don't realize this. The mind alone is manasai vedam apyuktam neha nanasti kinchana. Nothing is separate from this Brahman. He who thinks there is anything separate goes from death to death. So again he says everything is nothing is apart from Brahman. Everything is realized only by that. So again, what is the mind that is talked of? It is that, it is not that there is, it's not the ordinary mind or the impure mind. The mind that is, done intense sadhana. That's why Islam says, Shuddha Mon, Shuddha Buddhi, Shuddha Atma Ek. Pure mind, pure Buddhi and Atma. They are one and the same, Sri Ramakrishna says. So the mind, what happens when you purify, at that stage, the mind virtually becomes one with Atman. When the mind is completely, when the Atman is revealed, and then the mind does not have any separate entity at that time. It becomes one and the same Atman only. So, then the 12th again it gives a small idea as to what kind of meditations one can do on the Atman. It gives some idea. Because under the Advaita scheme, meditation, etc., Upasana is very, very difficult. But still, to imagine, to think of something is to be given. So he gives a good idea here. Angushtamatra Purusho Madhya Atmani Tishtati Ishano Bhuta Bhavyasya na tato vijigupsate etat vaitat. It's of the size of a thumb. Uh, it resides in the heart. Madhya atmani tishtati. Ishano bhuta bhavyasya na tato vijig. It controls the past, present and the future. When a person knows his Brahman, he has nothing to hate or nothing to conceal. Again it says, etat vaitat. Know this to be that Supreme Self. Don't lose track of that. We are discussing so many other things, but always remember that highest. That is to be remembered. You have to keep track of that. Don't forget Nachiketa. So he says, in the Hridaya Akasha, there's a concept. The Hridaya Akasha, the size is also supposed to be Angushta Matra. The size is thumb only. So when you meditate on the Atman, Atman is also imagined to be of the size of the thumb. So just it's a concept, Turkey. So one can think of it.
Because it cannot be sized, it cannot be put into an object.
Yeah, cannot be. But then just to imagine that it is present in the heart as a size of a thumb, that is the size. So it is somewhere, the heart is supposed to be the seat of all spiritual realizations. That is the center. So in that, in the Hridaya Kasha, the Angushta Matra, Purusha, this Purusha, which is of that is residing there. So when the spiritual aspirant knows this Brahman, see, actually, after all, we constantly assert ourselves, no? We, I. So somewhere, the Atman is connected with us also in that way. So this imagination that is residing the body itself in the Akasha, it's the size of an Angushta or the thumb. But no, a person knows this, then he knows that he has realized Brahman, he need not be afraid of anything. So he does not hate, he does not fear. But then again it says, Etat Vaitat. This is that, the Supreme Self which I taught you. Don't forget that. Again in the next sloka also, again, the 13th so beautiful. Angushtamataha Purusho Jyotihi Jyotiriva Adhumak Ishana Bhutavesa Sevadya Sa Uspaha Etat Vaitat. So, the present now and all be present in future also. Adhya and Savuspaha in Ishano Bhutavesa is control of the past, present, is present now, present in the future, will always be there. Again, another idea is meditate on as a shines like a smokeless flame. Smokeless flame is, absolutely there is no distraction, absolutely pure. It doesn't flicker or anything. So it's again a concept. Again it says, a person knows that, has no difficulty, no fear, nothing. But remember, etat vaitat. This is the truly that self that Nachiketa we was asking about, or that's being told. So that then you go to the next chapter, that is chapter 5. Puram ekadashatvaram ajasya avakra chetasaha anushtayana shochati vimuktascha vimuchyate etat vaitat. Again, etas vaitat. So the body with its 11 opening. Puram ekadashatvaram. Puri shainati the Purusha, the Purusha which says this body, the. Yeah.
Sorry, Swamiji, in Gita also, Krishna says that Hridaya is Tishtati in the heart of everybody.
Ishara sarvabhutanam hridaya sejam tishtati brahmen sarvabhutani entire rurani mayate.
Say that he's not there, it's just a figurative thing. We cannot say that Atma is Krishna, Krishna is within each everybody's heart.
Yes. Okay. What is the problem?
So I'm saying he is, whether he is Angushta Matra or that can be, I really don't know.
See, in various ways you imagine, na? One can imagine as all pervading, All pervading, it's a very vague concept. So a little more concise, little more figuratively, just for imagination only. That's why he always remains etat vaitat. Remember that. This is a self that we are talking about. But just for understanding, you can think that just as a flame in the heart. Some way, to bring about the ekagrata of the mind. How does he bring about the ekagrata or concentration? You need some imagination. See, actually, what is the type of all meditation that we do, all that? It's largely to control the mind. See, otherwise, if you don't give it a direction, it will go in all 1,000 directions here and there. So they say, yes, you meditate on the form of Sri Ramakrishna. You meditate in the form of imagining on the form of Sri Ramakrishna or God or anything like that. What is it going to happen? Is it going to become living? The idea is, the mind, when it again and again settles on the same thing, then it starts gaining that color. It starts becoming like that. When you again and again think about the Atman, only that, when everything goes away, the mind becomes slowly more and more purified. When all the impurities are removed, then Shuddha Man becomes a pure. There the Atman is completely revealed, and there the Shuddha Man becomes Shuddha Atma, they become one. So the 11 opening, they say, the 2 eyes, 2 nose, then the mouth, then 2 ears, then navel, and then the 2 organs of this thing, and then finally one in the Brahmarandra, which is not seen. It's also imagined. So these are, is the abode of the body, abode of the self, which is unborn, always the same pure consciousness. A spiritual aspirant uses his body only in the service of the self, only for spiritual realizations. He then goes beyond sorrow. As he becomes over ignorance and identifies his body, he becomes free from the cycle of birth and death. You see, this body, the abode of the self in one sense, is for conception. Initially to know in a limited way. Otherwise it's everywhere, you can't see here, you can't imagine it, so it's only all pervasive. It's a very vague and huge concept. To make us come closer, to realize that this thing ultimately, to make us concentrate, then it says, yes, is in that body with these 11 holes, it is Puri Shainat, the Purusha, this Purusha is in this Puri, in this body, or in this Jagat Puri. In a larger sense, in a limited sense, this so-called body. Is it not? So this is the nearest that we understand. But then, if this Puri, this body, if it is used constantly for spiritual activities, for knowing the self, for such activities, then slowly he goes beyond sorrow because he overcomes ignorance and slowly will stop identifying with the body also. And then finally he goes beyond the cycle of death. Because if you think that we are the body, gone. But even if you try to meditate here and all that, slowly one has to, as one evolves, one should understand that it is not this body, it's not the mind, it's not all that, it is that Supreme Self. So it is no longer connected to body and all that. When that realization comes, that is the time vimuktascha vimuchyate. Then he becomes free from all attachments, vimukta, and then he becomes free from birth and death. Because what causes our birth and death? It's because we are attached, we have desires produce attachments, attachment bring again and again samskaras, etc. And finally we are forced to take again birth. Huh?
Sloka 3.
3. Let's go back. Which one? Hamsa Sushisat.
No. Urdhva.
No, further, it did not get caught.
Urtam Pranam. ऊर्ध्वं प्राणम उन्नयति अपानम प्रत्यगस्यति मध्ये वामनमासीनम विश्वे देवा उपासते. Prana is that which, you know that prana, apana, vyana, udana, samana, there are pancha pranas. They have directions. Prana is that which goes upward, apana is that downward. So, the self, madhyeva is the heart. The yogis meditate, all the sense organs perform their respective duties as they are paying their tribute to their master. Vishve deva upasate. So, here it says, the madhye asanam vamanam, in between the self and the asanam, the object of worship. So, here similarly, if you think that the sense objects, what are the duties? If they are to be used in satisfying and gratifying, you go astray. You go from mrityu to mrityu. But if you think that they all have to be only for the upasana, or to propitiate the self that is in the heart. So, that means, you see, even though you are conditioned by the body, how can you slowly evolve and lead a life which will lead you to go beyond body? See, if the same senses, if the same organs, if the same your indriyas, etc., if you use for enjoyment, they take you from death to death. If you withdraw them and take them to think about Atman, the ultimate, the reality which is birthless, deathless, eternal and all that, they help you progress and they help you go beyond the death. So, it is for the same thing can be used in both ways. If you neglect, if you indulge in all that, that doesn't take you anywhere. Again and again you have to go from birth to birth, death to death, and it goes on eternally without any end. But if you develop yourself a little differently, if you think that this is how it can be done, then it is possible then we can deal with the whole thing very differently. That's what it says. Then the fourth sloka, asya visham visram samanasya sharirastasya dehina dehat vimuchyamanasya kimatra parishishyate etadvaitat. That's the rider always. Gets detached and leaves the body, what remains there? See, asya visram samanasya, this embodied self gets detached. Visram sanasya means when it gets detached from dehat, from the body, this embodied self, and leaves the body behind, what remains there? Nothing remains. This is truly that. So now he clearly says, see, the organs in the body, etc., they will all be impact. You can even donate, organ donation, everything possible. But once the body, once the death occurs, when the embodied self leaves, when the prana goes away, then nothing, no, that means what? The entire functioning source of strength is all only that Supreme Self. Without that, 6 foot, 6.5 foot, so bulky, long, this, that, nothing. Whether it's a thin person or thick person or Brahmana or Vaishya, Sudra, Indian, foreigner, anybody, whatever may be the shape of the body. See, that which is the Dehi, if it leaves the Deha, then nothing. It's absolutely useless. It has nothing. It has absolutely no purpose. It's like anything like a log of wood or any such thing is totally discarded, waste. So the whole thing is, the real strength, the real everything, all is only that self. So that's why it's important. That's why it again remains Nachiketa. Remember that Supreme Self we talk about, that is it. Everything is that only. But they know it as a Dehi, as an embodied thing, as performing, and how it can all be, how it can be meditated. So many ways he is trying to help him, he's going to give him some guidance. But really, it is that Supreme Self, that alone is to be remembered, that alone is to be the one which one has to really know ultimately. Anything? Any questions? Yes, Narendra?
Maharajji, one thing sort of confuses me is when we talk of the self, Brahman, we say it's omniscient, omnipresent, and is present in objects as in animals and human beings and everywhere, right? And then a verse like this where it says the self leaves the body, right? So what is the difference then? So like life is self or life is separate from self that distinguishes us from the object. This life.
No. See, what leaves actually, is the prana or the prana shakti. That is that. But behind that also is that self only. See, self in one sense is, that's why his inside is say antarasya bahahyasya. So that means it's all pervading. It's here, it's there, it's everywhere. But then to understand in a limited way, see, because we are familiar with the body, we are familiar with the structure. So me, what is the closest that I know is myself. So to understand that, they say, imagine that he is in your heart in the shape of an angushta or like a flame without any smoke. So the various you try to imagine. See, when it is, the whole thing is self only, you can imagine it in a small way also, in a limited way also, or you can imagine it in a huge, vast way also. Depending upon all the external, that's why always he cautions him, etad vaita, this is that. But for your understanding, for clarity, to enable you to meditate, to think of it, see, simply you say it is vast. Then no, you are not able to concentrate anywhere. What is this vastness? Vast is vast. So to bring your mind, the attention, because we are capable of focusing in a small way. So it gives the idea, this is that. So you imagine him to be like that, as if he is present in your heart. See, antare gahvareshtam guhayam. Is there any cavity like that in the heart? So all only that kind of a feeling. It's deep within. How do you feel it? Only through a spiritual experience. When the mind becomes very pure, you are able to go deeper. Normally, as we saw Paranchikani, it's all always going outside. When you are able to turn it inwards, when you are able to meditate deeply or concentrate, think deeply, keep away all other distractions, then naturally, all that gathers inwardly. Normally, when you close your eyes, also when you try, you will see that if you are able to concentrate a little more, all the things will go towards you only, inward only, not outward. Only when the mind is disturbed, it's outgoing. So like that, to make you understand, to make your sadhana maybe a little more comfortable, these ideas are all exchanged.
So then, Maharaji, how do we explain life? Like the biggest difference between a human being, a living being, and an object is that we have life. Then what gives?
Yeah, see, they say, Chaitanya is all pervading in that sense, it's everywhere. But obviously, there is a difference in manifestation. See, the manifestation, that's why, in plants also grow. There are things that, plants, they respond to music, and so many others, they say. So, in various ways, the Chaitanya, the consciousness or something from that is also felt that way. But it's more clearly felt in human beings. In animals, they also have. But then we clearly see that the idea of Chaitanya is different at levels and different. So that way, we feel that although they are there, they are very, that's why Manushya Janma is considered so sacred.
So we can say it's just a constitutional difference of the koshas, like there is pranama, the sukshma sharir is there in the jiva, the objects don't have that sukshma sharir. Can we say
Probably not. They have only that idea, because, see, beyond the point about plants, etc., whether they have sukshma, sharir, etc., they have knows that vasanas like that.
Gita also there is a mention, even in stones, that consciousness is there. Jada also.
consciousness, yes, but not the sukshma sharir, the prana.
See, actually, the finer distinctions, whether I don't know whether any particular shastra or any subsidiary texts have discussed this in detail, but obviously it doesn't seem to be that. Yes, they have some kind of Chaitanya consciousness that is felt in various ways. People have, if you do it in a particular way, they behave in a particular way. So through all that, in a very indirect way, they have found out as there is also some kind of a life force. Otherwise, the distinction is that we seem to have a very clear, well-defined way of functioning. That's why for mukti, ultimately, one has to pass through the human birth. Otherwise, mukti or liberation is not possible. And also in this life, if you live a very horrible life, they become animals, they go to lower births, etc. They say. Tea. Huh? But tea has not come. 5 minutes.
There are still 12 minutes to go.
Why? 4. 5 minutes, 7 minutes there. Tea has not come. So if you have questions, you can.
In Gita also the Lord very clearly states, I reside in the heart. And और दूसरे उसमें in the form of the Agni also, Pachanam Chatur.
Vachamannam Chaturviham.
And so, and in chapter 2 also it's very critically said, Na Hanneti Hannamane Sharire.
Yes.
So that is very emphatically stated. It is there inside the human body, so it does not die with the destruction of the body. So
No.
it is there in the
Yeah.
Sharira.
No. It is not physically present like that. It is not. See,
Nee,
the self is not to be understood in any physical sense at all. It's only a perception. See, because the functioning of the sharira, mind, body, everything is possible only because of the self.
this
But self is all pervading. In that sense, it's in the body also.
Yes, but it says, then what carries the impressions of all our karmas to the another body?
Yes.
So there
See,
is something which
no.
on which all these karmas are.
Yeah, that is what you know. See, there are two ways. There is one thing called, there are 3 levels of body. One is the stula sarira,
Yes.
then there is called sukshma sarira. There your vasanas, samskaras, etc. are there. They go to the next body. When this body dies, only the stula sarira goes away. Sukshma and karana sarira go to the next body. See, so there are various different schools. These cannot be clubbed together. There is another line of argument. See, where there is Panchakosha Vivaran, that is another way of looking at it. So, in each thing, the arguments are a little different. So, they say the body consists of the personality, the humans, the Jivatma, the human soul consists of 3 layers, namely the Stula, Sukshma, Karana Sarira. Your Vasanas, your Samskaras, etc., are all stored in the Sukshma. It goes to the next line. So, Nahanyate Anyamane Sharire. So that means, because it is ever present, everywhere, so the self has no death, no birth, nothing. In that sense, it is not killed or it is not born. That doesn't mean that it is physically present. There is nothing like physically presence of the self. It's not, even in fact, even the mind, buddhi, etc. are also only sukshma. There is no stula. Can you say where exactly is the mind in this body? But with the mind only we function. Can you say where exactly is the buddhi? It's all sukshma. We function using the buddhi. But you cannot say the location of the mind or the location of the buddhi in the body. So similarly, the Atma is definitely there everywhere. As Sarvam Vyapi, it is in the Sharira also. Because the Atma only all these things are happening. But you cannot literally, physically locate this is where the Atma is. But they say for imagination, for the sake of meditation, etc., it is the deep cavity of the heart. It is completely covered by ajnana, so we are not able to see. That is how where it is. That is one idea of seeing it. Anybody?
Some vagueness is there in the mind. Vedanta, cause and effect, karma, they all seem to be disjointed. The body stays as long as my karma
Yes.
the body goes away.
You see, over the various janmas, whatever you do, you keep accumulating karma phalas. which necessitate the birth of another body. But in one birth itself, all your karma phala is not exhausted. Certain portion goes away. And what remains, and what you have accumulated again in this birth, for that another body is. So as long as you keep on functioning, doing karmas which are of the nature backed by desires, prompted by vasanas, they will keep on creating bondages. That is why, you see, somewhere there will be, that discussion will happen also, Jivan Mukti and this time. Whether the Jivan Mukta has any karma at all, how does he function? So, normally, unless you really give up those kind of participation, those kind of activities, you can never put an end to this cycle of birth and death, because you will be accumulating more and more karmas only. Unless you turn avarta chakshu, unless you turn your gaze inwards and do that kind of deep meditation or practices and evolve, then it is not possible for you to really become a mukta. Then your birth and death will continue for eternity.
In another perspective, it is stated that karma is all mithatva. There is nothing, there is no karma. There is no, but we have the impact of the karma.
No, who said no karma? Where does it say? See, whatever
Vedanta
we
does
do.
not recognize.
No. Vedanta, why does it? Karma phala, this thing is all definitely recognized. Not that it's not recognized. Why? Karma is because of our whatever. See, as long as we have this body, mind, indriyas, etc., whatever you do with them, it's all karma. It can be karma which is for realization, it is sadhana, etc. That is one thing. So, when you do such things, for example, even in the Karma Kanda, the same yaga yajnadi, without any desire for fruits, if you do, they lead to chitta shuddhi. But if you do them with the idea of a phala, they lead to karma phala and then to further births, etc. So it depends upon. Karma is not denied anywhere. Veda is full of, majority of the portion is karma only. When in Vedanta they say, how you can get rid of this body. But the functioning it does not deny. That's what again it says, those who do like this, they go from, what is all that? It's all by their functioning only, na? Karma, the word is not directly used there, but what they do is, what is that? It's all action only. That only leads them to the again and again the cycle of birth and death, eternity. Yes, Naren?
Since we have time, Maharaj, I would like to hear from you. In one of Thakur's life, there is a Leela where his nephew passes away. And Thakur at that time doesn't feel anything, but next day he talks of
Yeah.
of a cloth.
Yeah.
So for him, how is that given his knowledge and his understanding that death is just...
Yeah, see, that's what he says, when Akshay passed away,
Yeah.
when people around him were all weeping so much, but he was in ecstasy. Because he really saw that, like a sword being removed from the sheath, he saw the Jivatman was really getting liberated, mukti. It was getting rid of the casing of the bondage of the body and was getting free. So he was in ecstasy. But then the next day, I felt as if somebody was squeezing my heart like a wet towel. That's what he says. You see, he tells really in his explanation, he says that, I have no relation with the body. For me, if it is like that, because, Manilal had come just after cremating his son. His 21-year-old son had died, he had cremated him, and he came straight to Thakur. He was sitting so completely lost. Then Thakur slowly sat by him, and then he explained to him, this is the nature of life. Then he says, you see, for me, I can't even keep my clothes on. That means I have no connection in the body. If I can feel like that, I can understand what it will be, because it's Atmaja. You have only given birth to him, it is you only. So I understand. So that means what? When there is Deha, when you are in an embodied state, there will be some characteristics. When you are in this body, you cannot say that I have nothing, I am only, see, Brahman has no body. So when there is an embodied state, there will be some characteristics related to the body. That's what he was saying. Although he was the avatara himself, and in his own words that he has no connection with no sense of body consciousness, even I could feel that how it will be for others. So he explained. So a trace of that humanness, the trace of that idea of body and mind will be there even in the highest kind of Mahapurushas. So it's no denying that. Finally, it has come late.